afraid that you might, influence people who are on the fence?
I think you lose all credibility. I do. I mean, my bond with my audience has always been I don't pull a punch. A conservative once said to me, what you guys in the liberal side of it don't get about Donald Trump is we don't like him either.
Yeah.
It's just that in this country, it's binary. I mean, gender may not be binary, but politics is. You only get two choices. And the stuff that they are afraid of, they see Donald Trump as a bulwark against, and that stuff is a lot closer to the home.
So, Joy Behar rushed to Whoopi Goldberg's defense after Maher's brutal takedown. But just like Whoopi, she walked straight into her own public humiliation. Behar's dismantling was so savage and so complete that staging any real comeback seems nearly impossible. If sharp political showdowns are your thing, smash that subscribe button, and let's dive in.
By the way, out there, that hat that you keep wearing, that red hat that says Make America Great Again, that tells people that you go along with this. So you might as well just put a swastika on the hat.
Don't do that.
Because we see it anyway.
Well, I think some people resent the question. Like, what don't you get? Look, I'm not going to defend Donald Trump ever, but I would never say that we should put the swastika on the cap, because I think you can hate Donald Trump. You can't hate everybody who likes him. It's half the country.
Maher and Behar's first major clash erupted over the MAGA movement and its figurehead, Donald Trump. Behar, like many progressive Democrats, defaulted to the provocative comparison of MAGA supporters to Nazis, but Maher shut that down immediately and without apology. In his view, disagreeing with the MAGA movement is entirely fair game, but branding millions of Americans as Nazis is intellectually dishonest and dangerously reductive. Democracy, Maher argued, was never designed to function within an echo chamber. It thrives on friction, debate, and the uncomfortable willingness to engage with opposing viewpoints, even ones you deeply despise. To hate MAGA supporters so completely that you refuse any dialogue or coexistence isn't a moral stance, it's a democratic failure. And that kind of political tribalism, where demonization replaces conversation, is precisely the erosion of democratic values that Bill Maher refuses to normalize or stay silent about.
I'm nervous about saying anything against Biden because I feel, not that I have so much power, and you have some more than I do, obviously, but
I don't know about that.
Are you afraid that you might, influence people who are on the fence?
I think you lose all credibility. I do. I mean, my bond with my audience has always been I don't pull a punch.
Yeah.
My bond with my audience is you're not going to like everything I say, but I'm saying what I really think is.
Now, if you listen carefully, a calculated strategy was clearly unfolding beneath Behar's words. She wasn't simply making conversation. She was deliberately setting a trap, attempting to bait Maher into launching a full-blown anti-Trump tirade. By casually claiming she felt nervous about criticizing Biden, Behar was engineering a subtle but transparent pivot, one designed to draw a direct comparison between Biden and Trump. From there, the plan was predictable. Once Maher engaged in that comparison, Behar hoped his well-documented frustrations would naturally pull him toward attacking Trump. Her reasoning leaned on a widely held assumption on the left that Trump is uniquely hostile toward media outlets, particularly given his history of filing lawsuits against several of them. It was a cleverly disguised prompt, dressed up as vulnerability. But Maher, sharp as ever, recognized the maneuver immediately, refused to take the bait, and kept the conversation firmly on his own terms.
He just presents as old. It's not really fair.
No.
Because he's almost the same age. Trump is almost the same age as him. But Trump doesn't present that way. You look at somebody right away, you can kind of just sum them up. I mean, we are not young, but we don't present as old.
Yeah.
Biden does. I saw him yesterday making that speech. Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, he's cadaver-like.
But his brain is good. He's still great.
Well, here's what I said. Like when I came back after the strike in September, I said, he should get out. Because he's just lost the faith of people. It's not fair. He's actually done a pretty good job. But I said, he's going to be Ruth Bader Biden. That's the term I used. Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She stayed too long at the fair.
And you can see the exact moment Behar's strategy collapses. Watch her shift uncomfortably in her chair as the conversation spirals completely out of her control. Her carefully laid trap didn't just fail, it spectacularly backfired. Rather than launching into the anticipated anti-Trump tirade, Maher pivoted with surgical precision and unleashed a full-scale, unsparing critique of Joe Biden. He laid the blame for the devastating 2024 election defeat squarely at Biden's feet, arguing that the president's stubborn refusal to step aside earlier had essentially handed the election away. But here's what makes Maher's position particularly compelling: he wasn't speaking in hindsight. Long before the rest of the political world was willing to confront the uncomfortable truth, Maher had publicly and repeatedly flagged what he saw as an alarming deterioration in Biden's mental acuity. He sounded the alarm loudly and consistently. The left dismissed him, ignored the warnings, and ultimately paid.
Obama had her over to the White House, like in 2013, to hint, hey, spend more time with the grandkids. That would not be a good idea, Ruth. And she didn't take the hint, and she was not in good health, and she stayed too long, and she ruined her legacy and got the Supreme Court now to be a pretty right-wing organization. Said Biden shouldn't do that. But, ego, he's Dracula. He has crossed oceans of time to be here, and he's not going to give it up now.
Maher wasn't finished. He continued his unflinching Biden critique, and that's precisely when the gloves came completely off. In a moment that was equal parts brutal and brilliantly theatrical, Maher compared Biden to Dracula, a figure so intoxicated by power and relevance that he simply refused to exit the stage gracefully, even when the writing was clearly on the wall. The Dracula analogy wasn't just colorful television, it cut to the heart of what Maher argued: that Biden became so consumed by the seductive pull of legacy and the intoxicating roar of applause that he lost sight of everything that should have mattered more: the national interest, the party's survival, and the broader democratic stakes of the 2024 election. Rather than making the selfless, statesman-like decision to step aside at the peak of his political standing, Biden clung to power, and in doing so, potentially altered the entire trajectory of American politics.
A conservative once said to me, what you guys in the liberal side of it don't get about Donald Trump is we don't like him either.
Yeah.
It's just that in this country, it's binary. I mean, gender may not be binary, but politics is. You only get two choices. And the stuff that they are afraid of, they see Donald Trump as a bulwark against, and that stuff is a lot closer to the home.
Maher then touched on something that many of Joy Behar and her co-hosts are reluctant to openly acknowledge: the phenomenon behind Trump's remarkable and enduring appeal. For a significant portion of the American electorate, Trump represents something rare and almost mythological in modern politics: a figure with the resolve to stand toe-to-toe with the woke establishment without flinching or apologizing. And the attacks came relentlessly: smear campaigns designed to destroy his reputation, relentless name-calling intended to humiliate and isolate him, multiple high-profile court cases viewed by his supporters as efforts to derail his political ambitions, and a seemingly endless avalanche of allegations meant to finally break his spirit. Yet, through every political attack, media controversy, and legal battle, Trump remained, in the eyes of his supporters, unmoved and unbowed, standing firm on his principles with a defiance they found extraordinary. And crucially, it wasn't just loyal MAGA voters who took notice. Undecided voters.
Like, my kid is coming home from school, and they're not allowed to tell me if they're transitioning. The school is going to take the side of the kid over the parent. Stuff like that. There is a lot of crazy stuff on the left. This book, there's stuff that each side is going to like and probably stuff they're not going to like so much in there, because that's the answer to the Donald Trump situation is what's going to get him elected is this woke stuff that a lot of people in this country just don't go for.
And with that observation, Maher struck at the very heart of the 2024 electoral earthquake. The driving force behind Trump's decisive victory wasn't solely economic anxiety or political tribalism. It was a deep, visceral cultural revolt. Millions of ordinary Americans became concerned about how schools and institutions handled gender identity issues involving minors and parental involvement. They watched heated debates over transgender athletes in women's sports, with many voters worried about fairness for female athletes. They watched debates over gender identity policies in bathrooms and private spaces, issues that many voters saw as deeply personal and politically explosive. And with each passing controversy, the outrage quietly compounded. These weren't fringe concerns whispered in conservative circles. they were kitchen table conversations happening in homes across every demographic and every zip code. Everyday Americans, many of them politically moderate and previously uncommitted, looked at the cultural direction the left was aggressively steering the country and made a firm, deliberate, unmistakable decision to pull the lever for Trump. The White House press secretary caught wind of what went on between Behar and Maher, and this is what she had to say.
Watching this clip, I couldn't help but think how ironic that Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar and the rest of the ladies on The View spend their time calling Republicans the conspiracy theorists. But they have been wrong about everything they have said over the last couple of years. They likened President Trump to Hitler. They have mocked him. They have shamed him. They have lied about him consistently on their show. And it was a joy to watch them on November the 6th when they realized that tens of millions of Americans do not listen to the lies that they have.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt didn't mince words when she publicly called out both Joy Behar and Whoopi Goldberg as being fundamentally out of touch with everyday American reality. The evidence makes that verdict difficult to dispute. The media and political backlash against Trump began the moment he announced his presidential ambitions, long before a single policy was implemented or a single executive decision was made. To many voters, it felt like the narrative was already written and the verdict had been delivered before any serious debate. Yet the strategy collapsed under its own weight. American voters, particularly those outside the coastal media bubble, simply didn't buy it. And the
are completely out of touch with reality. And you're right, ABC should wake up. They just paid $15 million to President Trump's future library. That's a great thing for the American people.
It is. You know, I wanted to start with that crazy absurdity because during my tenure as White House press secretary, there was a lot of absurdities coming from the press. I remember one briefing where Ryan Lizza bizarrely asked me if Trump was happy that the South lost the Civil War, which, like, you could see me, I stopped, I looked at him and said, that is absurd. I mean, you'll deal with these kind of crazy questions from the White House podium.
Now, if Leavitt's remarks left you wondering exactly what prompted such sharp criticism, the context is both revealing and deeply significant. ABC, the parent company of The View, was forced to settle a massive defamation lawsuit, paying Donald Trump a staggering $15 million. The defamatory statements in question weren't made on The View specifically, but rather by veteran news anchor George Stephanopoulos during a separate broadcast. However, the settlement sent a thunderous and unambiguous message reverberating across the entire network: words have consequences. Reckless statements carry a devastating financial price tag. And yet, remarkably, neither Behar nor her View colleagues appear to have absorbed that very expensive lesson. The broader concern is that careless political commentary can damage credibility and create serious legal risks for major media companies. Because if history has demonstrated anything, it's that ABC's $15 million education clearly didn't go far enough.
500 arrests ICE has made so far since President Trump came back into office. Can you just tell us the numbers? How many have a criminal record versus those who are just in the country illegally?
All of them, because they illegally broke our nation's laws and therefore they are criminals as far as this administration goes. I know the last administration didn't see it that way, so it's a big culture shift in our nation to view someone who breaks our immigration laws as a criminal, but that's exactly what they are.
So, there you have it, a masterclass in political miscalculation played out in real time. Joy Behar walked onto that stage convinced she could manipulate Bill Maher into becoming another weapon in the left's anti-Trump arsenal. Instead, she encountered someone who refused to abandon intellectual honesty for political convenience. Maher's willingness to critique Biden with the same fearless energy he applies to everyone else is precisely what separates him from the partisan echo chamber that The View has become. Meanwhile, Behar and Whoopi continue doubling down on a strategy that cost ABC $15 million and continues to hemorrhage credibility with ordinary Americans. The 2024 election delivered a verdict that no amount of media spin can reverse. The American people saw through the noise, rejected the narrative, and chose differently. If this breakdown resonated with you, smash that like button, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.